Mr. Scary Studios. Number 1.
So this happened past spring when I was working front desk at a hotel. I worked the afternoon shift from 3 to 10 p.m. So I got mostly people checking in. I actually love my job, but this was the first time I had ever worked at a hotel and the first time I had ever experienced anything like this. So it really put me more on guard, and that night we had 2 rooms left available. I was trying to sell those last rooms pretty quickly so that we could just be sold out for the night. To clarify for anyone who is unfamiliar with the hotel industry, usually front desk agents are authorized to discount rooms if it means it will bring in more business, not over-the-top discounts. But my boss personally trusted us to use discretion. Anyway, so these 2 dudes walked in around 7 or 7:30. By this time it was only me and the maintenance dude on duty. But I didn't know where the maintenance guy was. Essentially, it was just me on duty at the front desk. These guys looked normal. 2 younger black guys dressed really nice. They asked for room prices, and we were running pretty pricey that night. So one of the dudes says he is going to run out and call his buddy to see if that price was okay. I wanted these rooms gone, so I started negotiating with the other guy. He is talking me down, and I am being fairly generous with my offers of discounts. Finally, I say, "All right, I will give you X amount of price if you guys give us your business tonight," or something along those lines. After I said that, he got kind of closer to me and said, "Wow, you really want us here tonight, don't you?" I was shocked at the flirty change in tone, but blamed myself for phrasing it that way. I don't remember my response, but right then my friend came back in, and the guy I was with told him that I had given them a discount and they checked in. Then the friend kind of wandered up to the room while the other guy hung around until his friend was gone. Then things started to get weird. He told me the only reason he agreed to stay here wasn't because of the discount, but actually because he thought I was hinting that I wanted to hang out with him and wanted him to stay. He kept asking when I was off, over and over. I just stayed professional and said that I had a boyfriend, which I did, and wasn't interested. He finally gave up and went up to his room. About half an hour passed, and all of a sudden, while I was on the phone, he wandered back down into the lobby wearing PJs. He sat down in the couches opposite me and just sat on his phone and kept looking up at me and smiling. I pretended to be very busy on this phone call, and when they hung up, I called the hotel phone from my cell phone and pretended to be on the phone for a second. That backfired when I got another actual phone call. It was a wrong number, and I hung up, which was when he made his move. He asked for my number and then proceeded to tell me he wanted me to come up to his room after his shift. No. Then he asked if I wanted to meet after work and smoke weed with him. I kept saying no. I had a boyfriend, and his response was always, "Well, he ain't here, girl. It's just us right now." I was thoroughly creeped out at how relentless he was. I finally just got the balls to tell him to leave me alone, or I would have to call security. This pissed him off apparently, and his tone changed 180 degrees. He got really defensive and said he was just trying to get to know me. Then he started aggressively climbing and reaching over to the counter to try and grab me. I screamed, and that made him even angrier. He yelled, "Shut up, bitch!" And at that moment, a family came out of the pool area. It spooked him and ran out into the parking lot. The family saw I was breathing heavy and had seen the guy run. So they stood with me while I called my maintenance guy to come. We eventually called the cops, and my manager And after work, looking at the security tapes and hearing my story, they kicked him and his friend out. I was scared of those dudes for a while after that. I really hope we didn't meet again. TLDR update. Was working hotel front desk. 2 guys came in and one thought I was flirting. He was relentless and almost violent and got himself kicked out.
Number 2.
Longtime fan of this thread, first time poster. I'm not much of a writer, so this will be short and sweet. So I live in a small town in Australia. It's quite a nice town, but there is an ice epidemic and the crime rate has risen. Fuckload of kangaroos too. Unfortunately, I live on the edge of the bad part of town, and there are plenty of sketch people around. Across the road is an old lady who lives alone in a brick house. About a month ago, the old lady was going on about her usual Friday afternoon, heading to the local bolo to push some buttons. Anyway, when she gets home, she gets into her spare room to call her daughter before heading to bed. When she enters the room, the first thing she notices is that her window has been smashed open. The hole in the window was big enough for a man to climb through. She immediately phones the cops and hides in the bathroom until they come through the house about 20 minutes later. Now the creepy part, the police searched the area and found a man hiding in the bushes of the backyard. The man turned out to be a sex offender who had been released only 2 days beforehand. He had served 30 years for the assault of 2 other women, both also elderly, and had just gotten off parole. He had stalked her and waited until she left, jumped the fence into the backyard and smashed the window, then hid in the bushes until she arrived home, planning to attack her. The man didn't put up a fight to the police, instead calmly letting them arrest him. The lady said he stared at her intently as they ducked his head under the door into the paddy wagon. Creepy guy in the bushes, let's not meet.
Number 3.
We had a huge party for my little brother last summer on his 6th birthday. Moon bounce, water balloon fights, a cookout, and of course a gigantic cake. My party will be much, much smaller, just a cake really, and even for that, Mom didn't even have any flour to make the batter. But I'm not bitter. I jog briskly down the road to the Parkers, just run down quickly and see if they have any sugar, then hurry right back. Mom says, "And wear your raincoat and gloves, Laura." I glance up at the sully gray clouds that seem to have covered the sky forever, and doubt that a raincoat and gloves will offer much protection. I knock on the Parkers' front door when I arrive. Feeling silly, Mrs. Parker will likely be just where she was when I came here last, sprawled on the kitchen floor, covered in weeping, seeping sores, with a few rats gnawing at her face. And that's where she is still. Though, since it has been over a week since I was there, she is now mostly bone, with some clinging, gristly bits. And she doesn't care a bit as I grab the whole canister of flour and the bag of sugar she had in the pantry. The bombs with their poisonous vapors and plague clouds caught most of us unaware, but Mrs. Parker believed in always having a well-stocked pantry. I leave quickly, not wanting to see if Mr. Parker is still alive. He was crying and begging me to take him with me, but I couldn't get his wheelchair down the stairs and lost control of it. He tumbled to the bottom, but I heard him groaning as I ran out the door, so I know he was alive then. The rats probably had gotten to him by now. I don't even check, just run out of the door again, and home with the flour and sugar. Mom finishes mixing up my cake and lights a fire to bake it, while I put Desitin on the worst of the sores on my brother's face and arms, and then treat my own. They are worse today and probably being outside didn't help. Even with a raincoat, in a month or so, we'll probably be dead as the Parkers, who had no cellar to get into when the bombs came. My cake smells wonderful as it bakes. My brother drew me a sweet picture of us fishing together, and my mom even found candles for my cake. This will most likely be my last birthday party ever. But I'm not bitter.